You know, giving Godzilla literal armor has to be one of the dumbest ideas and useless ideas in the MonsterVerse. Thankfully, that's not canon. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew and today we're retreading the Playmates line of Godzilla vs. Kong products with the Titan Tech Godzilla. Yes, this is going to be the second of the Titan Tech figures we're going to be taking a look at. The third would technically be Rodan, but newsflash, I don't have Rodan. Here's your Rodan. He's an angry bird. Just pretend there's battle armor on him anyway. So yes, this is going to be the Titan Tech Godzilla, which, if you don't know, Titan Tech is basically like a subline, like a spin-off line in Playmates' MonsterVerse line of products. And basically they take your favorite MonsterVerse kaiju and they make them like have these transformative gimmick armor stuff like weapons and stuff galore, and it looks really stupid, really corny, but really fun to actually do. And essentially it's a gimmick toy. So this is going to be the Godzilla variant, which I don't know if they're going to come out with like a Godzilla, what do you say, Godzilla evolved version of this guy. That would actually be pretty cool. But this is the Godzilla we've got. So I previously took a look at the Kong. I thought the Kong was actually pretty fun. As far as like quality is concerned, like actual quality, no, it's not necessarily the best. It had a crummy sculpt, all things considered. Paint job was decent. The new battle axe was cool, and the articulation serviceable. Nothing too special going on there. But the actual transformation was actually pretty good. The only thing I was really not liking was the fact that the backside was pretty much blank. However, this Godzilla, I can say, does improve on some stuff, so let's go ahead and take a look at the figure. Now, what's kind of a bit of a downside about this figure is that, admittedly, it doesn't really come with any form of accessory. It doesn't come with a heat ray. It doesn't come with like any external attachments that you can like latch onto the figure, because I think that would have been pretty fun. It's just primarily a 8 to 8 inch tall Godzilla figure that you're basically just going to be getting. So there is no accessory, but that kind of segues perfectly into the sculpt and paint. And I'm pleased to say that the sculpt and paint, at least proportionally speaking, like the actual design, isn't so awkward compared to its original counterpart, that being the Heat Ray Godzilla from the 6-inch line. The reason why is because Godzilla's body is a lot more chunky than Kong's body, so there's a lot more gimmicks and such you can actually hide internally. It doesn't give it, though, that it has a lot of seam lines and such. But for the actual design for the face, let's kind of like push my camera up a little bit. For the face, we actually do get like this part, which is going to be made of a more softer plastic. So the good news is there's going to be a bit more detail than you would expect. We have the eye paint, which is going to be actually more, I wouldn't say complex. It looks a bit better than, again, the 6-inch figures, because it's an 8-inch figure. You're actually going to be like taking the sculpt and you're going to be like maximizing it as if you're in Photoshop. The eyes, though, are going to be like crescents this time around with black dots for the pupil. I'm pretty sure that's just the base plastic peering through, so that means if the figure was white, that'd be a white pupil, but alas, that's what it is. From a front, yeah, it looks kind of goofy as hell, but that's honestly to be expected. The detail work here is actually really nice, and I do dig what we have here. For the top of the head, it's actually pretty well detailed. You'd think they'd actually smooth that sucker out. For the nostrils, they're pretty well sculpted too. Got some like bit of a blue wash there, or unless that's just like mild sprayage from the teeth at hand. But we do have a lot of nice detail. Screw holes galore. Not on both sides. Nope, not on both sides. It's just primarily to this side of the head. Which, yes, screw holes, they're going to be a problem for some. For others, not really. I've said this time and time again, but I'll continue saying it. I grew up with toys with screw holes, so I really don't care that they have them. I mean, maybe someone would like them covered, but hey, that is what it is. For the non-soft plastic part of the figure, which like is basically this whole neck segment that you can actually kind of see shifting up and down. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but we have basically just kind of like the softened out detail with the neck segments. The plastic here used is, again, really hard, and then we have like the dorsal plates, like where it starts going blue. And at least they actually bothered to do the next segment, dorsal plates blue this time, which, good job, Playmates, you're learning. For the teeth are okayly painted. They're just kind of like basic white strips. Nothing really to talk about there. Although we do get some more of that like bluish white wash with the figure. And we do have a tongue, which is very nicely done as well, with the teeth kind of making our turn as far as details concerned. Nothing too much with the neck, because it is kind of softened out with the gills and the neck lining. Going to this side, more or less just the same thing as the other side, just with more smoothed out details, and there's no screw holes. I will say again, there's kind of like a noticeable difference in quality. It's almost like this is rendered near perfectly. This thing still has yet to be rendered, so take that for what you will. Bottom of the jaw, just to give you a bit of a better look at that. For the sides of the figure, specifically like the sides of the chest, we have actually pretty decent detail. Like, this is actually not that bad for a Playmates figure. Here's this section here, which is actually going to be like something you pull out, is going to be more soft plastic. So there is a bit of a difference as far as like quality, but really it is consistent enough to where you really won't see it unless you actually like pay good attention to that seam line. It almost looks like a fork, doesn't it? Anyways, yes, all the scales, they kind of go down a little bit more towards the dorsal plates where you see this big like set of blue beams. That's actually part of the actual like transformation. Going to this side, more or less the same thing, so not too much to talk about. When we do get to the stomach, though, it does become a little less rendered, because here we have like the pecs, and the pecs sadly don't make that prominent of an appearance. Again, kind of a little bit of a disappointing thing. But for the arms, we do have a little bit of detail, which we have a bit of like the rectangular scales going down. Here we have this little nub, which is, again, something you pull out, a little bit of like Axis blue paint. I don't know what that blue paint is from. Actually, no, I do know what that blue paint is from. You're going to see it in a bit. But you can kind of see that there's a bit of a color difference. That's more black. This is more like charcoal gray. As you can continue seeing here, this side doesn't have it, but there's no paint on the claws, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because I feel like the figure could have used some paint, you know. Going to the legs, which are going to be big and meaty. As per usual, they're definitely more bent in, like the actual design of like the standard 6-inch figures, which is I think what they did here. But of course, we have like all the panel lining for the transformation, all the different like scales and whatnot kind of running down. Let's take a look at the foot here. MonsterVerse 2022, Godzilla trademark, COPPA Toho, and all that good stuff. Playmate stuff. And again, I kind of wish there was paint on the claws. Same thing here for the nub, because there's a bit of a color difference. I think the claws would have looked really well with some paint. And yeah, that's honestly like a bit of a criticism I have. It's just the lack there of a lot of paint, like maybe a dry brush or something. The dorsal plates here are a bit of a mixed bag to me, because on one hand, I appreciate the translucency of the translucent plastic, of course, being used here, and I do like how like more chunky they are in comparison to something, again, like the 6-inch figure. However, like the 6-inch figure, unlike the 6-inch figure, I mean, these are not the correct shape. Yes, they are the KOTM plus fins, but they're dulled down significantly. Yeah, for some reason, they did this same thing with the Battle Roar Godzilla, and this Godzilla especially, where I guess they wanted it to be less sharp for kids, but like, you have an 11-year-old figure, an 11-inch tall figure that has the correct dorsal plates and are completely malleable and fine. So why a bigger figure and a smaller figure have those shape of fins, but somewhere in between doesn't? Like, that's not adding up to me, so I don't understand what the actual intention behind these dorsal plates are. That's something I never really liked. Also, some people might not like the gap in between the dorsal plates, again, because of the transformation. I don't mind it because I've gotten used to it, and I understand why, but probably because I have it actually transformed on my shelf more times than not. And as for the tail, it's not an incredibly long tail. It's actually pretty short for Godzilla, but he actually just kind of like stops right here. And there's no paint on this thing, no blue wash, sadly, that doesn't count. And what's fun to note is that it actually comes in multiple segments. Well, technically speaking, it comes in this big, long segment that you pop it in. But this segment right here is going to be like soft plastic. And just to showcase, no, there's not going to be any articulation here. If you try doing that, it's going to split the plastic, which kind of scares me. And of course, we got some screw holes. Just to show you underneath, more of the segmenting. Nice dorsal plate detail, though. So for the actual, like, side profile, there's this. Above, back shot, literally hitting the Titan Godzilla. The side shot again. I think I already did this, but screw it, below. And front profile. So for the actual sculpt and paint for Titan Tech Godzilla, sorry. That's Titan Godzilla. This is Titan Tech. You guys really need some new names, okay? Because we have Battle Mechagodzilla, Battle Roar Mechagodzilla, and now we have Titan Godzilla, Titan Tech Godzilla, and then there's Megagodzilla and Giant Godzilla. Like, we need some new names, Playmates. You guys are doing a great job with your Godzilla Con, the new Empire line, but please, we need some new names. Anyway, for the actual sculpt and paint, it's nothing spectacular, especially for Playmate standards. This is about what I'd say average. It's not going to feature that much paint aside from the face, because pretty much everything else is virtually unpainted. You could technically classify this as painted, but it's entirely one segment that I almost really don't count it. Everything else here is not going to be that well painted. There is some pretty decent sculpt work going on, but a lot of it's just more on the unrendered, cheapish side, which again, I understand what you're paying for. Like, what is this? Like $15 a figure? At least American? I can't imagine what other countries must go through in order to buy one of these. But at the end of the day, at least what you're getting with this guy is good. It's serviceable, good. I would say, honestly, it's better than Kong's. My real, only gripe with it is just going to be the lack of a dry brushing. If this thing had a dry brush like the original 6-inch figure did, I basically wouldn't be complaining. The dorsal plates, okay, they kind of suck, but I understand why they do that, because this actually has a purpose with the transformation. So, how do I really score this? I'm going to say 7.5 for the actual sculpt and paint. It's at least on the more better side. For articulation, we actually have actually more than Kong, yes. Surprisingly, there is a Godzilla figure compared to a Kong figure that has more articulation than the Kong. Anyway, so for the articulation, we have a hinge at the jaw, which is not going to be too big. We're just going to have that go that far out, that far in. Nothing at the head, even though there is a seam, there is nothing there. For the shoulders, we actually do have a swivel, so we can go up about this far, a little bit, no, that's about it. And down about this far. Let's go to a side profile so you can really see that. Oh wow, actually splitting the whole thing out. Oh boy. So yeah, it can basically just go up and down. And wrist can go a full 360, same thing on the other side. For the leg, we can go up about that far, backwards about that far, and can rotate full 360 degrees. Same on this side. This one's actually a bit more easier to move than this one. I don't know, this one just seems to glide a bit more easily. And we can go a full 360 with the foot, and a full 360 at the tail. And of course nothing there, because you are going to just split the plastic right out, which that screw is probably not doing its job. Anyway, so as for the actual articulation, again, it's basic. You know, it's just basic. Same thing could apply to the sculpt and paint. The articulation is basic. You get hinge at the jaw, shoulders, wrists, feet, hips, and a tail. Essentially, you get an identical amount to the articulation as you would with the 6-inch, if not a little more with the wrists and the feet. So as far as articulation goes, that's actually pretty good for a Playmate. So I'm going to go ahead and score this thing a 7.5 out of 10. I would say that the only thing that would be really missing is just a head swivel, because the head doesn't have any transformation, spoiler alert, but really, I think that it's actually pretty well done. Something to of note is that, I think I just forgot this in the skeleton paint, is the way that the foot is done is kind of weird, because the foot itself, or sorry, the leg is actually bent backwards like this, and it's actually the mold as to where this foot would actually be like stepping forward. Let me explain. This is the legs to my original hedorah Godzilla figure. Basically what they did is they took like the legs and they like bent them backwards, but it's essentially two of this leg right here. Granted, this one's more bent back than this one is, but this one is more straightened out, so the Godzilla can actually stand on two legs. Here, it almost looks like he's squatting because of the way his legs are looking. Now, maybe this is just like Playmates like trying to do like a neutralized position, but it doesn't really look well. Oh, is that? Oh, yes. There's the transformation. But yeah, the articulation for me gets a personal 7.5 out of 10 just for that. Also, yes, that was just worth noting. All right, and finally, for the moment you guys have been waiting for, it's going to be the transformation. So the transformation is a bit more complex on Godzilla because there are more components to him than Kong. But it should be worth noting that there's really nothing like no right or wrong way to do it, just don't break it. So the way I like to start it is you're going to look at the dorsal plates and you're going to flip them around. We're going to see these two blue appendages. That's how you know you're on the right track. So you're going to lightly take this arm and you're going to split it like that. Maybe don't go as rough as I do. Flip this like rib cage looking thing out all the way like this, and you're going to see this blue appendage go like that. Now, take this little segment and kind of like push this a little back, not overly back, but push it a little bit back. And you're going to also want to pry this open. Make sure the legs aren't like careening against each other. And pretty much rinse and repeat on this side. Flip this out, flip that out, and flip this out. So now you should have 3 points of Godzilla that are flipped out like that. So make sure you just get rid of all the internal components and just watch as this guy gets pieced back together. So we're going to have this like creepy Godzilla abomination. So you're going to want to flip this out, and you're going to see this little black nub kind of fold out. That is to help kind of like secure everything in place. So you're going to want to just kind of align everything like this. Oh, wait. There we go. And this is going to be like in a hinge, and it's just going to split out open like that. So that's going to be your chest piece, and so the internal mechanism should look like this. Next, you're just going to flip this part out. Make sure all the blue parts are still out. And now it should look something like this. You should have 2 shoulder guards and this big set of rib cage guards. Really just the spine guards. So you're going to have to couple these suckers up like this. And boom. That is the spine armor. What's funny enough is that this and this are, like, technically, so to speak, the only source of armor really on this figure. So again, the rest you can do pretty much to your own order, but we're gonna go like downward. So these are gonna flip open like that to reveal some extra compartments. The best part about it is it's not really hard plastic. It's actually kind of soft plastic. You're going to take the left forearm and see this little switch we talked about earlier? Boom. Now he's packing. Go here, flip this around, fold this upward. We got a set of North Korea missiles. Flip this open, and we reveal another switchblade, as well as we flip this open to reveal even more missiles. Hey, rinse and repeat on this side. Just like so. Just like that. And for the last bit, we have a bit of tail stuff. So we flip this whole compartment open, pull this out, and we have a switchblade that is on a hinge. So once everything is all folded up and ready to go, your Godzilla should look like this. Absolute madness here. Now, for the actual, like, detail in the transformation, everything here is going to be blue as opposed to silver and gold on Kong. So this is more color correct with Godzilla. Here we have a bit of, like, different components, like with, like, these little knives there and, like, some more tech and stuff in Godzilla. We have some, like, shoulder pads, this little chest piece, which I'm not sure the significance of. Maybe it's like a power energizer thing. Another shoulder pad, a switchblade that is going to be colored a silver with some blue stuff in the actual arm. And a little black nub, of course. More of the same blade stuff, some armor around the dorsal plates there and here, which we have 6 in all. We have some more missiles here, here, and here. Another switchblade, just to kind of go back around. Missiles, blade, and more missiles. And of course right here we have a switchblade which can really do some damage, giving your Godzilla some extra work to do as far as like tail slap. Let's tail slap the Titan Godzilla. Oh no, what's this? He has something that this guy didn't account for. His size. Oh no. Game over. Jokes aside, I think between Titan Tech Godzilla and Titan Godzilla were to fight, I think there's a pretty clear winner there. This guy might have all the gadgets and, well, hypothetical armor, but this guy has size and strength. So yeah, I guess who wins? Anyway, as for the actual display and like presence of it, it is very cool. This is really like what the hell is this? When you have like family over or friends over, guests over, whatever, they see this thing on your shelf or maybe your bin or something, whatever you have this guy in, and they're gonna be like, what is this? Like, what does Godzilla look like that? And it's just, it makes for a great talking piece, you know? I think just like a lot of it, again, it's not something that is supposed to make sense because this isn't technically, so to speak, Godzilla. This is a version of Godzilla, like a Titan cyborg version of him that just looks incredible and he looks awesome. I will say as far as armor goes, I do like his personally more than Kong because it looks more like armor and actually protects him in certain vital areas, like his gills being guarded by these blades and his dorsal plates being guarded by these little like beams. That said, he is just packed with missiles on his legs. He has a switchblade in addition to his claws. He has shoulder guards. He basically has all the works. If I did have a bit of a gripe, I think I would have liked more color variety on his gear because a lot of it is just basic blue. You know, why not have like this being a red? Actually, you know, funny enough, there was supposed to be a red version of this guy. I think like years ago, there was a like a prototype of the mechagodzilla, like the one with like the missiles. That actually did have like this red serpentine armor, and then they literally just took that, reworked this into this guy, and just made it blue. How we know that is just because of these. They literally look the same. Anyway, but that's a whole different other story for a different thing. That said, this figure on its own, I think, is going to be the stronger one of the two as far as the armor is concerned, so there is that. I personally rate the armor an 8.5 out of 10. I feel like something that could have been really cool is maybe its own gimmick aside from it. So like maybe like a missile of his own. Like if there's any Godzilla that needs a missile, it's this one. Ironic because his legs are literally jam-packed with it. But I'm rambling at this point, so let's move on. So for some size comparisons, here he is with the original Hedorah Godzilla from versus Kong and the Toys Godzilla versus Kong Hedorah Godzilla. Which, as far as like just moving this guy, as far as the actual size is concerned, I never really realized how much shorter the higher version would actually be in comparison to the Titan Tech Godzilla because I never really had the two on the shelf. They are in the same shelf cabinet if you want to call it that. But they're like on opposite ends of each other just because of the way they look. So I never really actually saw how they looked standing next to each other. So it really is impressive to think that even though Hyatt is absolutely massive and chunky, there's actually a clear size difference. Although Hyatt is the heavier figure of the two. Also, for anyone wondering, no, sadly, this guy does not have a peg hole in his mouth, so you can't really stick the beam effect in there, but you can kind of like rest it in the throat and kind of have it looking like he is shooting the beam, so there is that. But he's not designed to hold one, sadly. I think a beam effect for this guy would have looked awesome. And here he is compared to the Kongs of the past few reviews, with the Battle Axe Kong 6-inch variety and the Titan Tech Kong himself. Basically, these two are, unfortunately, partners in crime. I say unfortunately because I like more of him and less of him. I know, call me biased, but you know what's actually kind of funny is that as far as like size goes, this is almost like what I originally had expected from the film. Like this size of Kong fighting against this size of Godzilla, although it's a bit more like what these two are. But as for which Titan Tech figure I overall personally prefer, let's actually get this Kong out of the way. As for which Titan Tech figure I personally prefer, I would say the overall looks have to go to the Kong, but I do personally like the articulation, the sculpt work, the paint work, and the actual like amount of weapons and accessories, or well, not really accessories because he has the accessories, gimmicks on the Godzilla in person. So I personally would take the Godzilla over the Kong. The Kong is way more goofy because essentially the Kong needs this. You know, I give it like 3 movies in, he's gonna have most of all this stuff. And if they keep going the sci-fi, so dumb, stupid sci-fi stuff in the MonsterVerse, because after the Beast Club, there's basically no going back. Giving Godzilla armor really isn't that important. I mean, hey, I don't see Godzilla rocking any headphones or sunglasses, but he did go up against Charles Barkley. And finally, here's some NECA Godzilla and Kong figures with the NECA King Kong original version and the NECA 1954 Godzilla, which, putting Mr. 1954 Goji to the side, I would say, like, as far as these two being paired together size-wise, this is actually really good sizing. I like this. They're both about the same height, if not Godzilla's a little bit taller. I'm trying to actually look because my timer's in the way. But I actually once like took a pictures of these guys a while ago, saying like, I'm so excited for them to return 2024. Yeah, it's 2025 now, so time is flown by fast, huh? Anyway, yes, yeah, so if this guy were to be more of an adult collectible, strip all of his accessories and gimmicks away, this would actually be a fun pairing. And so for my final thoughts, what do I think of the Titan Tech Godzilla? This thing is absolutely nuts. It has a lot of cool gimmicks and bells and whistles that I think children are going to absolutely love for hours. It's definitely going to be a bit weak as far as the actual paint is concerned, although it does feature, technically so to speak, better paint than Kong does. And I think the overall design of like base form Godzilla versus base form Kong definitely kind of warrants itself being the superior figure of the two. The only thing that I feel like this figure is really missing is going to be some extra paint, maybe a beam effect, and personally, I just think more color variety on the actual like gimmicks, because most of it is basically just confined to blue, and Godzilla is known for glowing several different colors, so why not do it? That said, if Playmates ever does continue the Titan Tech line beyond the 3 figures we have, Godzilla, Kong, and Rodan, I feel like they should really like just go nuts. Don't hold back, just go to the max with the ridiculousness. You've already opened up the floodgates for this guy. Just continue going at it. That said, I would really recommend this for people that just love crazy figures, or you just like Transformers, because I do have some friends who actually do like Transformers, and you know, this might actually be a nice fun gateway to like introduce them to the world of Godzilla collectibles. So yeah, as for my final score, I personally rate it what's a good score? I'm actually gonna say a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's a fun score. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna be a bit generous. Let's bump that up to an 8. A pretty damn good figure. So that said, I have a lot of fun with this, and I hope you have fun too. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, especially if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.